What do most Fortune 500 executives have in common? They learned important lessons on the fields and courts of their high school and collegiate sports teams. This is true for both men and women. Ernst & Young found that a whopping 94% of women holding a C-suite position played sports. Their wins and losses shaped their habits and who they would become. Join me on my journey to sit with some of the brightest executives in the world as we discuss how sports shape their professional trajectory. In partnership with Chief Executive Magazine, the voice of America's CEO community. I'm your host, Don Yeager, and this is Corporate Competitor Podcast. With me for today's episode is Joyce Mullen, CEO of Insight, a $9.4 billion Fortune 500 organization. Joyce leads her 12,000 teammates across 19 countries with the goal of modernizing their clients' businesses and maximizing the value of technology. After Joyce joined Insight as president of North America in 2020, the net sales in her division increased 14% over the next year, all while Insight was named one of Forbes magazine's world's best employers. In January 2022, she was named CEO. Prior to joining Insight, Joyce held several executive positions at Dell. During her 21-year tenure there, she was mentored by Michael Dell as she led sales, operations, supply chain, and partner strategy. Joyce earned her MBA from Harvard Business School and a Bachelor of Arts from Brown. And today, we're going to add another classroom to that list, athletics. Joyce ran track and cross country in high school and climbed the world's highest freestanding mountain, Mount Kilimanjaro. Download the free bonus resource we put together for you on corporatecompetitorpodcast.com/125 and be ready to fill in the blanks with Joyce's lessons on discipline and how to develop a growth mindset.
What do you want to be when you grow up? I don't know if it's magic or not, but I always ask, what do you love? What do you not love? I truly believe that if we can figure out how to understand what makes people tick, that's when we deliver exceptional results as a team, as an organization. What makes our teammate passionate? What do they want to be when they grow up? How to line up their personal goals with the goals of the company? That's when the magic happens.
Joyce, thanks for joining us.
Don, thanks so much for having me. It's a great honor to be with you today.
It's an honor to have you because we've never had a guest who has climbed Mount Kilimanjaro until today. You become our first. So I have to start at the top of the world. Tell me about the preparation, the work, what you learned from that incredible experience.
It was really, really, really fascinating and a lot of fun. We had been to Africa several times on safari, which we are so lucky to have been able to do. And those had really profound impacts on us. But what we realized is that outside of the resort staff and the staff on the safaris, you didn't really get a sense of the people of Tanzania or the people of Botswana. We talked to our guides and they said, you should think about climbing Kilimanjaro. And that sounded fascinating. Kilimanjaro is obviously an incredible mountain, just sticks up in the middle of Africa. It is quite spiritual in many senses, but it's also just stunning. It's surrounded by the various parks with fabulous animals and things like that. We made the decision to climb Kilimanjaro to spend some time with the 50, and I'm not exaggerating, there were 50 porters with us. These are really highly sought after jobs. We had the opportunity to get to know some of these guys very, very well over the course of 8 days. They told us that we had to spend 3-4 hours twice or 3 times a week walking because you'd spend a lot of time walking. They also were so careful with our diet and our health and safety. They had a process where you could not come near the food tent without washy-washy, they called it. You had to wash your hands. They observed you washing your hands because the last thing they wanted is for somebody to get some kind of GI issue while you're on this hike.
Right.
They were careful about our water intake. They measured our oxygen levels every single morning and evening. We had to write down how much water fluid we drank. They were in charge of regulating our pace, telling us pole, pole. That means slow down. Because if you charge up a mountain like some of my kids tried to do, you're going to suffer from altitude sickness very, very quickly. They were in charge of regulating our approach. They were in charge of regulating kind of how far up we went and then how far down we slept. Very focused on our health and safety, of course, the navigation. And they were also incredibly athletic, carrying a lot of stuff up 19,218 feet or whatever.
Just a round number.
Yeah, exactly. And they all had a specialty. There were people in charge of the food. There were people in charge of the sleeping quarters. There were people in charge of the hygiene issues, guiding people like me who don't have any knowledge or experience of mountain climbing or African environments. Very analogous to the work we do for our clients. Technology is a big, complex area, getting more complex by the day, changing faster than ever. And the notion of guiding clients through their choices, making sure that they reach their objectives, is really what we do on a daily basis. Similarly, we all have areas of focus and expertise. We have cloud experts, we have data experts, we have logistics experts, operations experts, we have sales experts, we have finance experts, and everybody has to play their role in order to make sure we deliver the outcomes to our clients.
I like that.
It was an incredible opportunity to observe how these guys really set up the logistics and how knowledgeable they were about the terrain and the weather and that sort of thing. We felt very much cared for, I would say, in the process. And then we learned so much from these guys. We learned really silly jokes. We learned lots of fun songs. We learned about their lives and how they thought about their work. All of us successfully made it to the top. It was a great family experience and something we'll never forget.
What a great teaching experience that is for you, both as a parent, but even in the rest of your work life.
Yeah, it really is. And we have done this with our kids for a long, long time. And they did sometimes get a little frustrated. But, now that they're all grown up, they talk about themselves as travelers. They have a good appreciation for the world. And that's really what we were going for.
I'm fascinated by the 50 porters. You actually had a chance with your friend, Pat Gelsinger, CEO of Intel, to sit and talk about this. You're right. There are so many analogies that we can use into our business lives. And each person, each of those folks has to do their job, as you said. I'm not here to do everyone's job. I need to be really good at what I do. And if I can do that collectively, we can deliver the mountaintop.
Yeah, exactly. And by the way, I totally and shamelessly stole this analogy from Pat. He actually used it in a VMware meeting. I loved it so much that we followed it up and did something together at a Dell event not too long after that. Pat's a great storyteller and a very skilled leader. So it was an honor to copy him.
No, and here I've stolen it from you. Now our listeners can steal it as well.
Yeah.
So I think we can safely establish anyone who's climbed Mount Kilimanjaro, you're a competitor, you're an athlete. But I know that you ran track and cross country in high school and you describe yourself as a soccer enthusiast. What do you see in the game?
Well, so first of all, I had never played soccer, but Malcolm Gladwell talks about 10,000 hours you become an expert at. We have 4 kids, all of whom played soccer since the time they were 3.
So you have your 10,000 hours.
I feel like I got 10,000 hours at least of watching. What I love about soccer is the flow of the game. I love that the team plays on the field without interruption and is innovative, creative in terms of their attacks or their defense. And I love that they have to play all the positions. I mean, I think it's fascinating that the strikers come back and defend, and some of the defense guys will actually score. It is the ultimate team sport. I do think it is a beautiful game. My dad completely disagreed with me. He thought it was the most awful game he's ever seen. It was like watching paint dry. He did not understand why all of his grandchildren were playing it all the time. But I do think you develop an appreciation for the strategy. My favorite is the World Cup, the nationalism that's associated with these unbelievable athletes coming together, especially if you go at the beginning, because there's so much hope. Everyone can win.
Have you ever been caught chanting, I believe?
Maybe.
Joyce, obviously a rewarding moment for you in January 2022 when you're named president and CEO of Insight. Fewer than 10% of the Fortune 500 company CEOs are female. It's a crazy number if you think about it.
Yeah.
What would you share from your experiences that might inspire other women who would love one day to be in your shoes?
There is a job to do. It's exciting to have the opportunity to do it. It's exciting to be able to lead a team, build a team, deliver results for customers, figure out how to create more value for our teammates, customers, our shareholders, using technology to deliver whatever outcomes are more important to them. Technology is an incredible industry in which to operate and is generally quite resilient to whatever is going on in the macro environment because everybody has to continue to figure out how to leverage technology for their own businesses and their own results, making their companies more sustainable or figuring out how to solve problems that are getting in the way of supply chain or figuring out how to manufacture more safely. It's an honor, it's a privilege to lead a team in technology with so much promise. Insight has a very significant opportunity to become a truly great company. I think of that more as a challenge than kind of as success, because success is going to be defined at the end. It's whatever you do to keep getting better. And that's defined not only financially in terms of the value we create for the company, but even more so to me, the opportunity to create very meaningful careers for our teammates and business outcomes for our clients. Of course, technology can be misused, misapplied, but I'm a firm believer that in general, technology is a force for good, and it's something that's going to help us solve some of the problems we're facing as an organization, as a nation, as a planet.
I love the way you're thinking of success. It's not just that Insight itself shows great profit and numbers. It's the downstream beneficiary of all your great work. It is, what are your clients? How are they growing exponentially as a result of the work you're doing? Insight has company values: hunger, heart, and harmony. What do you want those values to stand for as you are growing the organization?
I have to give credit to the team a long time ago. I think we've had our values for 7 years or so. I would be shocked if there's any single person on our 12,500 person team that doesn't know about hunger, heart, and harmony, because we reinforce them at every turn. And the team has done a fantastic job over many, many years, nurturing, defining, reinforcing, programming those values. It's world-class. Hunger is all about being a restless improver, a change agent that is 100% committed to delivering results for our clients that line up with their definition of their success. It is around acting with urgency, putting points on the board, making continuous improvement, and it is around making sure we are quite restless about driving change and driving improvement for our clients. Heart is all about how we work together in terms of contributing to our communities, reinforcing our teammates and their approach to solving problems, making sure we're helping one another, collaborating, and putting our hearts and souls into delivering those results we just talked about. Harmony is really about thinking through problems and taking advantage of this notion that 1,000 minds are better than one. Diverse opinions get to a better answer. But then once we have arrived at that answer, all rowing in the same direction. They work together quite well. And by the way, there is this notion of balance between them. If we are demonstrating a lot of hunger, but forget the heart, that is not the kind of environment where people can flourish over the long term. If we're all about the heart, we're probably not going to pay the bills. So we got to keep all these three in balance together. They deliver a high performance culture, which is what we're going for.
Powerful.
I'm sitting in our new headquarters. We are in the conference room next to my office, which is called Harmony. We have a heart conference room. We have a hunger conference room. I actually wish mine was hunger, but it's probably a good balance that mine is harmony.
Hopefully hunger is over next to the sales guy.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly where it is. That's good. We have a recognition program that is very well used, I would say. People recognize their teammates for hunger, for heart, for harmony. So you choose which value you're recognizing somebody for, and then you talk about how they won a great deal, or you talk about how they put in a whole bunch of extra hours to launch an event for one of our teammate resource groups, for example, or you get to recognize somebody for putting together a terrific contest for judging our Halloween dog costumes. Every single month, we choose a winner for each value, and these winners are publicized really effectively. Their pictures are all over our headquarters building, but this is not just in our headquarters. This is in every single one of our buildings that this is happening. We take some of these values awards winners on our sales incentive trips, 25, 30 people or so every year in North America, and then a few in the other regions as well. It's very well programmed.
You're rewarding the values.
Mhm.
Boy, you and I both been around way too many places where all the right words are on the wall. And then if you dig just an inch deep, you discover that none of that exists.
Yeah. Don, I think this is particularly important in an environment like we've just been through, or not, maybe are still going through this great resignation. It is really around what kind of environment do you want to work in? Are you able to do your best work ever?
Mm.
Are you working with people that you like, know, and trust? Because if you're not, that's probably going to contribute to a decision to leave the company. Our attrition rates are some of the best in the industry, so we're proud of that.
I love that. You learned a lot about successful organizations from Michael Dell. He was your mentor for 21 years. Give me one lesson that he taught you that still resonates today.
I feel very lucky. I probably had, I don't know, 50 mentors, probably more than that. At every turn, there's somebody you can learn from, and maybe they don't end up being a mentor, but you still can learn a lot from them. Michael, such an amazing technologist, great leader, great person, great dad. I mean, I think the world of him, and I was very lucky to work on his team for many years. Michael really understood the details. My first sort of 9 years at Cummins, I wasn't as detail oriented as I became at Dell. And I would not just attribute that to Michael, I would attribute that to the environment that he set up, the company he ran. Dell is an operational excellence company. I learned, unfortunately, the hard way when I did not have enough of the detail in as I was trying to sort of go through some issues we were working through. A meeting like that where you don't know what you're talking about, it's the last one like that you have.
It feels like there's a story there.
I had just joined Dell. I was in charge of supply chain for the service parts organization. I went to my first ever, what we called QBRs, quarterly business review. I understood my high level metrics. I understood what I was talking about generally. One of the guys who worked for Michael, who was my boss, said, okay, yeah, but Joyce, which parts? I see 96%. That's not 99%. Which parts were gapped? And I didn't know the answer. That was the last time I didn't know that answer.
Okay.
And the fact that somebody so senior in such a big company was asking for specific part numbers was a real indicator to me just about how dialed in the Dell leadership team was into the details.
Wow.
I mean, you don't have to know every answer, but you have to be able to say, I don't know, and I got to go get it. Of course, you can't know every answer, but you got to kind of know what the drivers are. I used to run the software and peripherals at Dell, which is kind of the big catalog of 3 million SKUs. Michael would go to a link and send me a screenshot and say, I searched for this. This is what I got. What are you doing about that?
Boy.
Yeah. We used to imagine that Michael had a factory of people who were just like Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. When you have that factory, people open up those candy bars, searching links and trying to figure out the broken ones. Turns out he was just doing it.
Wow.
Yeah. But I think it's a level of discipline that I think absolutely helps you be better. And in this industry, with tech changing like it's changing, you got to get 10, 15% better every single year, or else you're standing still.
You have to get 10 to 15% better every year. That's a large task.
Yes, it is. We got to be ready to learn.
Absolutely. So relationships are a big and very important part of your leadership style. You love to dig in and get to build relationships with others, from the mailroom to the boardroom. What are the most important things you feel you need to be asking and trying to remember when it comes to building superior relationships?
Oh man, I don't think it's very profound. Treat people like you want to be treated. Listen, do what you say what you do. It's kind of all that stuff you learn in kindergarten.
That book's already been written now.
Yeah. Yeah. I know. But first of all, I think you have to be genuinely interested in the people around you. You've got to be excited about learning from everyone. When I was at Cummins Engine Company, I was a brand new plant manager. I didn't know anything about manufacturing, but it was really pretty clear to me pretty early on that there was this guy, Tom Martin. He was kind of the original IoT because he could put his hand on a machine and anticipate its failure. He could look around the plant and see where the issues were. And he signed his name with an X because he couldn't read or write. It was pretty amazing.
He had a skill that wasn't measured in a classroom.
Completely. It's not about your degrees, it's not about your title, it's really truly being excited and open to learning from whoever's around you.
I love it. Curiosity is such a big thing for you.
Yeah.
You know, you've used the word team a couple different times. You've been a part of teams, both in high school athletics, the Kilimanjaro experience. You've been around teams often. Team is a big discussion point we love to have with our executive leaders and the folks that we get a chance to interview. You've emphasized the importance of demonstrating to your team that you care about their well-being, much like the Porters had to care about your well-being. Tell me how you are leading that charge and letting them know that you care about their well-being.
So we talk about leadership commitments at Insight, creating clarity, thought leadership, delivering results. But probably the most important one to me is inspiring our teammates to do their very best work ever. I truly believe that if we can figure out how to understand what makes people tick, that's when we deliver exceptional results as a team, as an organization. What makes our teammate passionate? What do they want to be when they grow up? What do they aspire to achieve? How do we understand their motivation? What is exciting to them? How to line up their personal goals with the goals of the company? That's when the magic happens. Sometimes that motivation is not a really obvious fit with the company's goals and objectives. One time I had a person on my team who said, I really want to be a stay-at-home mom. Okay, well, what do you need to do to be a stay-at-home mom? I mean, what is keeping you from doing that? She had some financial goals and objectives, and she wanted to be in a position where she could stop work for a while and then come back later, build some skills that she thought would be more relevant 5 years hence or so. We worked on that. And sometimes somebody says, well, I want to be the CEO of Dell. Okay, well, there's a couple people in that line, but let's go for it. What do you need to learn to be the CEO of Dell? That person is not the CEO of Dell because Michael is still in pretty good shape there, but it does help them build the skills that are most important to them. And that means we get the best benefits for our customers and our organization.
Mm.
I don't know if it's magic or not, but I always ask, what do you love? What do you not love about your job? What do you care about outside of work? What do you want to learn next? Those things give you a pretty good idea. Eventually, I do ask, what do you want to be when you grow up? I ask that of anybody, no matter what age they are, because I feel like we all have opportunity to develop and grow. And that kind of thing really, really helps you figure out how to harness the passion and the power, because then they're working not only for the goals of the organization, but they're working for their own personal goals.
Well, so I'd love to ask you, you're CEO of Insight. What do you want to be when you grow up?
I want to do a great job building this company to its potential and be an awesome wife and a great mom at the same time.
Wow. There's so many points of conflict in those three things.
Yes. And balance is a tough word because that implies a level of equilibrium that I don't think exists on a day-to-day basis. You have to think about blending and balancing over a period of time. That comes back to, what are your priorities? What is most important to you every single day? And trying to make sure that you set aside time for whatever you've deemed as the highest priorities of those days. And sometimes that's going to be a very personal commitment. And sometimes that's going to be, holy moly, we have investor day and we got to be ready for that. I actually think it's quite important to write down your priorities and then see how you're doing against those priorities. And if it's not in line, then I think you got to change something. And sometimes that change has to be quite radical.
That's such a great discussion point. Is balance the same every day? Well, sometimes in the last week of the fourth quarter, it's pretty tough to have the same balance as we might have at a different point.
Exactly. Exactly. And you just have to be good with it over time.
Right. You know, teams is one of those words that's overused most often in corporate environments. We talk about our team, but the truth is we really haven't built a team. We've just got a lot of individual contributors. As a leader who understands teams, how would you counsel us to build the bridge amongst a group of individual contributors to turn them into a team?
The first step is to assess the group of people who are in the positions of leadership who are forming your team and trying to figure out what it's going to take to make your team become the A team. That is around really being clear about what your objectives are and your goals are and your purpose is. Like, why do you exist and what kind of value are you going to create and how are you going to create it? It's around making sure you have the right kind of skills, not only for what you are today, but where you're trying to go. A big important element of a very successful team, you got to be a striker who can defend. You got to be a midfielder who can run for a marathon in 90 minutes. You got to be able to be flexible and innovative and creative, and you got to hold each other accountable, but you also have to support each other. When someone stumbles, making sure you're covering for them, because the definition of success is the team success, not individual success. And that means you got to have the right kind of chemistry between the members of your team. And that's really hard to assess. It's an imperfect science and it changes over time. So you got to be willing to make changes when you know that maybe something's not working.
One of the things that always strikes me when I talk to team builders, the chemistry of your team. Yes, we want to get it right, but it changes every time someone joins or leaves. You want to have a great framework, but then we have to be ready for the adjustments and the changes that occur on a regular basis.
Yeah, absolutely. And by the way, it's not even just when someone enters or leaves. It's also sometimes somebody else has something going on in their lives and that's forcing a change. You just got to be on the lookout for that.
You have to find that striker who can defend. Joyce, it's been a joy learning more about you. It's been an unbelievable gift that you've given us this time and the growth that we've taken from it. I've got pages of notes. They're all scribbled all over here. Thank you very much today for joining us and being a corporate competitor.
Thank you very much, Don. As I said, it's an honor. It's great to talk with you. And we're looking forward to having you in January in Phoenix.
I cannot wait.
All right. Take care.
Wow, that was such an incredible conversation. Before I break down my 3 favorite lessons, I wanted to give a shout out to Mark King and the leadership team at Brightview Landscape for leaving the nicest review on Apple Podcasts. And listeners who are new to the show, would you be willing to leave us one as well? Your review helps us continue to spread leadership lessons, including today's awesome ones from Joyce. My 3 favorite takeaways. The first came from the initial story about her trek up Mount Kilimanjaro with her family. What a crazy family vacation that must be. What they learned from those porters who had signed up for the job of helping them summit the mountain. Each one had a specific job. They only worked best collectively when each did his or her job. That is the way they got to the top. My second great takeaway was about her love for soccer. I thought that was pretty interesting. She talked about all that she learned from the beautiful game, the importance of playing consistently without interruption, the need for each member of the team to be able to play all positions. What a great juxtaposition that is with the porters that she was talking about, because sometimes you actually have to help other people with their jobs. So to build a great team, you need both lessons to be drawn into your leadership style. But my final and maybe my greatest takeaway was about the importance of knowing your team, that you have to inspire your teammates to do their best work ever. But in order to do that, you have to help them line up their personal goals with the company's goals. To do that, you have to understand what makes people tick. Joyce asked those great questions. She dug in. She got to know her people so well, she could help them achieve their best and at the same time achieve Insight's corporate goals. What a great gift. I hope you're leaving today, as I am, a greater corporate competitor than when we arrived. If you could share one habit, one thing you've done consistently that allowed you to separate yourself from your competitors, what would it be? In my 30-year career, 2,500 of the greatest athletes, coaches, and leaders answered that question for me.
This is Don Yeager, who did that article I was telling you about.
Don, Dave Sims with Coach K. How you doing?
Hey, Don. How you doing, my man? Great, sir.
What they gave to me is what I'm giving to you in my online course, Journey to Greatness. Through engaging storytelling and on-demand videos, you will learn the 16 habits that will jumpstart your personal growth. I will instruct you on how to apply these winning characteristics to your life through custom workbook exercises. We are slashing the price for our podcast listeners. Lifetime access to Journey to Greatness is normally $399, but for our podcast listeners, it will be $49 with the code podcast at checkout. Click the banner on corporatecompetitorpodcast.com to enroll. Thanks for listening to the show. I would be so grateful if you left us a rating and a review. We will be rolling out a new episode every Wednesday. To be the first to listen, subscribe to the podcast on our website, corporatecompetitorpodcast.com. Plus, as a thank you gift, you will receive a free chapter from one of my best-selling books on the habits of high-performing teams. Stay in touch by connecting with me on social media at Don Yeager, Yaeger, on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. Until next week, I appreciate you.